Alright, so welcome to Chapter 7, talking about the sport product. So this is the first in a series of chapters that deal with the 4 P's of the marketing mix. This one obviously is the first one we're covering, and it's sport product. And so we'll talk about sport product and what that means. So first of all, we have to define it. So the sport product, and any product for that matter, consists of 2 things. And so oftentimes people say, well, the product is what the customer buys off the shelf. Well, that's actually a good, meaning there's a difference between a good and a service, and those two are what we, or a combination of the two, are what we define as being the sport product. And that these are designed in a way that's going to benefit our 3 sport consumers: our spectator, our participant, or our sponsor. And so we're going to break down in this chapter the different types or reasons why or ways we can look at the goods and services, and specifically looking at quality of these. So, first of all, let's take a review, and this is more of a rhetorical question, but what must sports marketers create with customers in order to sell their product? This goes back to this term utility. If you remember, utility, we talked about in Chapter 1, is the want-satisfying power of a good or service. In other words, there are the 4 different types of utility. No matter whatever product we're producing and the customer buys, they're buying it for purposes of satisfying some sort of want or need. And so therefore, a sport product should satisfy some sort of need or some sort of utility, provide some sort of utility for the consumer. And one way that we do this is we looked at the sport product and what we call the bundles of benefits. And so let's take, for example, what the bundle of benefits would be if we are a Parks and Recreation department looking for, or a private select baseball club, but for Little League. The bundles of benefits could be a lot of things. In other words, it's what the product does for the customer and what they get out of the experience. So in this example, I might say I want to get my child involved in Little League baseball because for purposes of socialization. Another one might be for physical fitness. I want them to be physically active. Or I might be saying, you know what, I want them to develop some motor skills that would benefit them later on in life, or develop their skill in the sport of baseball so that they would do better. Or maybe I'm just looking for an activity that's family friendly. One or all or a combination of all of these things is what we call our bundle of benefits. It's what we are producing for our customer, and for this circumstance, Little League baseball. So what I want to first start with in these first few slides is looking at goods and services, and then our products and how those are categorized. So first of all, what's the difference in a good and service? Well, we'll look at it. The good is defined as the tangible physical products that offer benefits to the customer. And so goods would be those things that you can touch, feel, see, smell. There's lots of things that go along or involved in defining a good. The services, on the other hand, were usually the opposite in that they're intangible, non-physical products. And so we'll talk about some examples of the two. So first of all, and this is the activity I want you to complete as this part of the class, is to define both a good and a service, and then from there I want you to create, and you don't have to do this in groups of 3, even though the slide says so. I want you to, as an individual, come up with 5 sport goods and 5 sport services, list those out, and then come up with 3 products that can be both. I'd like for you to pause the video and do this now and come back to it before we go to the next slide. So hopefully you pause the video. If not, make sure you do that. Go and do the activity. But I want to look at this idea of the goods and services continuum. In other words, when we look at goods and services, they're not necessarily one or the other. While we might see some things that would be considered pure services or pure goods, such as a tennis ball, there's nothing really service-oriented with that. That would be a pure good. We do see a combination of the two as we go. So on our pure good side, we look at the tennis ball, hockey puck, baseball bat, soccer cleats. Those are things that you would use for sport participation. And the services related to that would be, if I use the good combined with a service of tennis match or tennis instruction, hockey puck and a hockey game, or baseball bat and baseball instruction, soccer cleats, you get the point. We would see that kind of in the middle of this continuum are the spectator sporting event. In other words, the activity that our spectators are involved in have both goods and services attached to them. In other words, you can leave the game, we've talked about this before, you can leave the game with memories, and that's what makes sports marketing unique, and that is the service side, but at the same time there are some goods that you might take with you. So what are some of the how do we differentiate goods from services? Well, one of them is the tangibility. So the ability to see, feel, and touch the product. If you can do that, then it is in all likelihood more of a pure good. So goods are tangible, services are intangible. And so if we look at it, there are some goods that might say, you know what, without the unique characteristics or the unique tangibility of the product, it would be like any other product. And so some things that come to mind when I'm thinking of, okay, looking at a good that might be unique because of the tangibility of the product, first thing that comes to mind is Under Armour. So looking at Under Armour and their dry fit. Nobody to that point, when they created this, had ever really thought about moisture wicking material. Most of the time people would work out in just normal t-shirts, and nobody really said, you know, because of the tangibility, the uniqueness of the material used, that's what makes that good marketable and competitive in the market. Another video I want to show you, this is 9450, and I think about the unique tangibility of this product and how we're using technology in the sport industry to improve not only professional sport, but also, in this circumstance, participant sport.
What it looks like to use the 9450 app and the sensor ball when using Shot Arc. So we're going to go through a couple of situations here where you can see how to set it up, how quickly you can use your app to get it started, and some choices you got to make on the court to get the right data so you can get that feel for the perfect shot. So first of all, we connect our ball to the app. We dribble it a few times. It's connected. We pick the right distance. Today we're going to shoot at 20 feet. And it's important you pick from the distance that you want to shoot from. That's going to give you the right data. And always make sure you have the player's height in the app. You got those two things set. You can shoot anywhere on the court. It doesn't matter where you shoot. You can shoot off the move, or you can do more of a stand-up, spot-up type of situation. Today it's just going to be spot-up. So here we go. We're using a two-man passing situation, which is great for really learning. The player can just focus on shooting. This can be done with parents to their kids, player to player, coach to player. If you want to shoot on your own, you can do that too. You just put the phone in your pocket, put your earbuds in. It'll all work. In this case, I'm going to put the phone in my pocket. I'm going to give the shooter some feedback on how to make adjustments to get that perfect arc, what it feels like. So here's the pass. They're ready to shoot. He gets a shot. 38 degrees. Now the ball went in. Streaky shooters can still make it, but he's going to be streaky. 38 degrees is a little flat. I want you to get your knees bent, jump to the rim, see if you can get that arc up a little bit. There's the pass. 43. You can see just a couple of adjustments. So that player learned just a couple of things that they could do. The results are dramatically different. Increased his shot arc by 5 degrees with one simple instruction. Now you want to make him repeat it. Do the exact same thing. Learn that technique so that you can do it in a game situation. See if you can repeat it. 41. It's come down a little bit. It's come down a little bit. So now you want to get that player. It's like do it. Repeat it 2 or 3 times. One more time. Get the knees bent, butt back. Jump to the rim on your shot. Release it high. 43. That's good. That's what you're looking for when you're using the shot arc function in the skill training part of the app, is to let the player feel what it's like to shoot the perfect shot every time, and the results you're going to get with your players, with your kids, with your teammates is just amazingly fast. And then repeat the heck out of it so you can do it in a game.
Okay, so let me start this back up. So obviously we're talking about the unique tangibility that makes that good so unique is the ability of 9450 to use technology to improve skill. That could be a combination of both the service that's provided, but also the ball and the software that's provided being the good. And so when we're talking about this degree of tangibility, it determines whether it's a good or a service. Another way to determine between the good and service is the standardization, or also known as consistency. So if I can repeat the same level of quality in the purchase and whatever they're buying, if I can do that over a long period of time, then all likelihood that it is a good. In other words, if I can produce a hat and that hat has the same level of quality, hat after hat after hat, every now and then you might see one that's messed up. For the most part, you're probably going to have a good, meaning the hat is a good. Or it might be harder for services. So you can see the two images I've got on the screen. On the left is the superintendent or the field manager for the Wimbledon. In 2012, they hosted the Wimbledon tennis matches, I believe right before the Olympic Games. This picture was taken before that tournament. And then the picture on the right is near the end of the Olympic Games on the same field. You can see over time, more and more people use this field, meaning a service. We see that there is it's harder for them to have the same level of quality as when the first match occurred. And so when we think about it, it's really difficult for sporting events to ensure every participant will have the same condition on the first and last day of the tournament, because things change. Field conditions, the availability of different goods that enhance the service, and so on and so forth. So understanding consistency, if we know that it's easy to make a consistent product, a high quality, then it's a good, and if it's hard to do that, then it is a service. Perishability, and so this is another way to look at it. If we can store the product and have inventory, then in all likelihood, then it is a good. If you can use it again, then it is a good. In some respects, some goods you can't. So, for example, food is an example, but the preparation of the food would be a service. And so you can't sell a ticket to yesterday's game as an example of the perishability of the service that is the sporting event. And so thinking about perishability, if you can use it again, if you could store it up, then it's a good. If you cannot, then it is a service. The last thing I want to talk about when we're talking about differentiating goods and services is separability. So the ability to separate the producer of the product from the user. So in other words, the ability to separate the good or the service, that product, from the provider. If you can separate the good from, or the thing that you're buying from the producer, then it is a good. So in other words, if you can sell your product in other stores without you being there, then in all likelihood it is a good. If you have to be there as the product is being consumed, i.e. athletes on the field, without the athletes you don't have the game, or skill instruction, or personal trainers, those are all examples of the provider has to be there, or the producer has to be there in order for the service to occur. And so we see that that in many ways in the sporting event scenario, there is not a separation between the athlete, the entertainment, and the fan. And so we have to be aware of the separability and the nature that it brings amongst services.